So today I figure I'd talk about Marianne Williamson. Honestly, for a long time, she flew under the radar for me. I really didn't pay any attention to her. But then I happened to see her run circles around Dave Rubin. Not that that's a hard thing to do, but I was very impressed. And I love, how she cut a swath through all the BS he was saying, all the right-wing critiques he was giving, even though he would claim not to be right-wing. Bullshit. And, he was talking about Democrats want open borders. She cut that down, etc. So she piqued my interest. So of course I decided to delve more into the person who is Marianne Williamson. And what I started to see was, people considered her America's sweetheart in a sense. Sorry, Taylor. And, she had sort of either a soccer mom kind of thing going, or she had a kind of hippie, dude, spirituality kind of vibe going. All of which I could see past. Because in most cases, she knew, or she seemingly knew, what she was talking about. So I could look past the surface. I could look past the, oh my God, spirituality, kind of thing she was pushing front and center, and listen to the factual things she was saying. And again, impressed with the Dave Rubin interview. But in that digging, within that digging that I was doing, two red flags ended up coming to my attention. The first one was she did an interview with, I believe it was Anderson Cooper, and she had some thoughts on antidepressants. And Anderson grilled her on it. He kept the heat on, which is interesting because when you look at Williamson, you would think she's, more of the progressive-esque, not a corporate or a centrist Democrat. And they really don't grill the corporate and centrist Democrats, as like they should. I have no problem with you grilling the progressives. Grill everybody all the same. That's all I ask. But I digress. She had some, weird point of views on antidepressants. And again, I could look past it, but she was so dead set on her ideology, with antidepressants, or what she thought of it, that she ended up quoting, the Church of Scientology. And either you knew the Church of Scientology, was putting out this information, which was bogus, and you didn't care because it corresponded with your thoughts, or you saw it and you didn't bother doing any research of, where this quote or where these thoughts were coming from, and didn't get to see that it was from the Church of Scientology. So he grilled her on that. I have a clip of that. I'm going to play part of the clip for you so you can kind of get a general, feel for how that went. But I could even look past that. Really, where the biggest red flag came to me was she's against Medicare for all. Or rather, she's afraid of pushing Medicare for all. I mean, either or, whether you're against it, like Joe Biden, or you're afraid to push it, like Marianne Williamson, it's not doing anybody any good. And during the debate, the first debate, she came out against Medicare for all. She said she didn't think it was a good idea, and the Republicans would use it against them. And of all people, Pete Buttigieg, he's the one that came out with his, I'm Pete Buttigieg, and I'm gonna say what I have to say, his fake Obama impersonation. He came out and he cut a swath through Marianne Williamson's critique on Medicare for all and why we shouldn't do it. And he said something along the lines of, whether we're a super lefty pushing Medicare for all, they're going to call us a crazy socialist. Whether we're a moderate Democrat, looking for a single payer option, they're going to call us a crazy socialist. And he's correct. Now, mind you, I don't agree with any of Pete Buttigieg's, policies. I think he's fake. I think he's a persona, and he represents a kind of politician that, we are over in this day and age. But he was 100% correct in what he said this time around. So kudos to him. And he pretty much, almost embarrassed her. It was a nice sound clip that he ended up producing there, and I have that clip as well that I'm going to play for you guys to see of that sort of exchange. And interestingly enough, she's a public speaker. I was wondering, why she performed so well, or why she, held her own in this debate, and why I was like, I don't want to say in a trance, but I definitely was glued to the TV when she spoke. And she, spoke effortlessly, and she painted pictures really well. And it's because she is a public speaker. So that makes all the sense in the world. So yeah, Marianne Williamson, in this day and age, if you're against Medicare for all, 9 times out of 10, you're done, son. Not that, her numbers were high enough for her to become POTUS anyway. That wasn't happening, but this is your time to make a mark. This is your time to get a lot of recognition, a lot of name recognition. And she was doing so. She's doing it. I think Tulsi kind of falls in that same category where I don't think Tulsi's going to be POTUS. But she's getting a lot of name recognition. She's getting a lot of eyes on her. And that's good for your political future. But yeah, I was sort of unsure about Marianne Williamson. I was impressed with what she did with Dave Rubin. And then, I was, with the antidepressants. And then I was like, seriously? When it came to, not being for Medicare for all and having such a lazy argument as to why we shouldn't push it. Listen, no matter what you push, the Republicans are going to be against it. They are not your friend. They are the opposing party. Okay? So whether you were pushing Medicare for all, whether you were pushing single payer, they're going to turn their noses up at you, and they're not going to be for it. Listen, Obamacare, or the Affordable Care Act, was, came from the Heritage Foundation. That was originally a right-wing idea. They know that, and they still turned it down. They still didn't want it. So they're not your friend. So I'm going to get into these clips, and, let you soak all that in. If you like what you see, if you like what you hear, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. If you don't like what you see, if you don't like what you hear, leave a comment. Let me know why. I'm always down for some open discussion, whether we agree or disagree. I think we can always have a civil conversation. All right, guys. So I hope you have a good rest of the day. I'll be talking to you soon. Peace.
You have used the word numb many times and mask. You said, in fact, Feds say 1 in 10 Americans on antidepressants, not a good sign. This is not a time in American history for any of us to be numbing our pain. If you're on an antidepressant, you're not numbing your pain. You're actually trying to feel again, no?
Well, some people would argue that, some people not. But the issue here for me is the difference between normal human despair and if you are going through something like grief, for instance.
Right, that's normal. That's normal. There's you write very eloquently about that normal universal sadness. But do you acknowledge you have raised questions though about clinical depression in the past? I know in our podcast with Russell Brand, I think you called clinical depression such a scam. And then you backtracked with the New York Times saying you regretted saying that, but you went on to say, and I'm quoting, it's not always such a scam at all. I agree. It's in its mental health is in its infancy in terms of doctors understanding how to deal with clinical chemical depression. But it does seem like there are many people helped by antidepressants.
And that's a good thing.
Right, but you, a few months after Robin Williams died by suicide, you posted a thing I'm putting on the screen implying that antidepressants were the cause of Williams' death. And you wrote, "The truth about antidepressants, helpful for some, harmful for others." And then you linked to this article that was clearly suggesting antidepressants played a role in his death. Do you know who wrote that article? That was by an organization funded by the Church of Scientology, which doesn't even believe in psychiatry, doesn't believe in any psychiatric medicine, even for very serious mental illness. They even have a museum in Hollywood called Psychiatry and Industry of Death.
I don't know if Senator Warren said that about me specifically. I admire very much what Senator Warren has said and what Bernie has said. But I have to say, I'm normally way over there with Bernie and Elizabeth on this one. I hear the others, and I have some concern about that as well. And I do have concern about what the Republicans would say, and that's not just a Republican talking point. I do have concern that it will be difficult. I have concern that it will make it harder to win, and I have a concern that it will make it harder to govern. Because if that's our big fight, then the Republicans will so shut us down on everything else.
Mayor Buttigieg,
it is time to stop worrying about what the Republicans will say. Look, If it's true that if we embrace a far-left agenda, they're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. If we embrace a conservative agenda, you know what they're going to do? They're going to say we're a bunch of crazy socialists. So let's just stand up for the right policy, go out there and defend it. That's the policy I'm putting forward, not because I think it's the right triangulation between Republicans here and Democrats there, because I think it's the right answer for people like my mother-in-law, who is here, whose life was saved by the ACA, but who